Hey everyone, it's Erin with Erin Gabriella. Welcome to your weekly reading for the week of July 3rd through July 9th. Happy Independence Day to those of you who celebrate. Coming up, it'll be tomorrow as the time of me posting this. It's early in the morning on the 3rd. I have been just doing a lot of meditating. Been a little nervous about this one because I being asked to touch on some very hot button and very triggering topics. So I'm just going to put a trigger warning out for this video that it might, and we might cover topics that are very heavy. So if you're just like, oh my God, not one more thing, no problem. But I'll definitely put stamps about what the video is about as we get started here. So, you can always come back later and watch it, but I highly suggest that you do because it's amazing. Announcements also, I've decided to do a group spell to help bring in the Divine Mother healing for victims of rape and sexual assault. So that will be tomorrow, July 4th. I'll do it at 10 p.m. my time, which would be 4 p.m. I believe Eastern time, but I'll put like the modified date as if I need to. I'm feeling really called, and I think this is an important point to jump into, is that this upcoming full moon that's happening today, July 3rd, that's the time that you're seeing this video, is a full moon that I have been told is a major portal that can benefit any victim of severe trauma. This full moon that's coming up on July 3rd, and for a certain extent into the rest of July, but this full moon is really activating that. It is a super moon, so amplified, bigger than usual. It's called a buck moon, and what it's doing is it's helping us go deep into the depths of who we are, into the depths of our psyches, and pulling out like the toxic sludge that we didn't even know was there. This type of energies or these type of purges happen from time to time. It's not unusual. We have them regularly, but this one is going straight for like that most toxic MFing thing that you can think of, like rape, like an extreme betrayal, like your most significant trauma that you're still working with. That is what this full moon is going to bring up. And the energy started around Wednesday or Thursday, and they'll be going through, the supermoon. The energies will kind of be with us for the next, I want to say like 10 days, and then, really to a couple weeks, and then taper off as we move into the rest of July. But something about July is just about deep trauma releases. So if you have found, like I have found, like this past week, I have been raped like repeatedly by an ex. I mean, I could just go on and on about my story, but that was over a decade ago. And all of a sudden, this past week around Thursday, I cannot stop thinking about like the rapist and everything that kind of happened to me back then. I've been getting like weird flashbacks that I never get. It's just been so strange, and it's just been a weird, and maybe it's partly because it's the full moon coming in, all the anger that I felt towards my ex, all the just residual like shame, like disgust, anger that I felt towards him, that I felt towards me, towards the situation that I thought was done. I thought I dealt with it, but apparently I've been burying some of it, and it's coming back big time, like through this full moon. That is the kind of like heavy stuff that is coming in around now, and especially through like the first couple weeks of July. So if you find yourself just having like being in a more like negative, but it's hard, I don't want to describe it as negative because it is positive. It's like you're purging. So if you find yourself like in just a deep purging process where you're going back to a highly traumatic event that may have happened to you. Just know that it's normal. It's a very collective thing. And sometimes when you're in the midst of, just going back into some more harmful events and just kind of going through that purging and releasing, sometimes it can feel like that's all that there is. Like your vibration will naturally dip a little bit. It's normal. Like you cannot have the same vibration every day all the time. It's going to just go up and down. And as we move into like our ascension and our awareness, obviously the goal is to make sure that we are in a high vibrating state as much as we realistically can, and to increase the percentage of time that we're in a higher vibrating state. But we're gonna have anger, we're gonna have depression, that is completely normal. So if you're finding yourself like maybe just out of the blue, like this week, having, going over traumatic events, healing, or maybe having like a milestone in a traumatic event. Like I have gotten, again, because I haven't really gone over this, like my past abuse, like in detail with my guides for quite some time. So this week, going back through it, I was given like new revelations about, just about what I've been through and like the nature of the power dynamic between me and my ex. Like I had a better understanding of what his power game was that he was playing, where before I had no idea. I was just so naive. I've also been able to just bring more clarity to some of the brainwashing that I had during that time. It's been really heavy. I think Spirit wants me to talk a little bit more about it. And I think that's the part that's making me so nervous. So, and I'm going to lean a lot into Spirit more than I usually do, because this topic I want to try to keep us as productive as possible. And I feel like if my human self takes over, like I'll just go into like an angry rant about how it's like not fair that this kind of stuff happens on the planet. So, which totally normal if you feel that, like that's such a human emotion. But the truth is that there is a higher meaning for everything that happens, even the horrific stuff. And as a planet, what everyone is learning collectively is like empowerment, like the sense that sorry, my hands are ashy. The sense that you're like, you are always an infinite being of power and intelligence at all times, including when things happen to you that can make you feel or try to convince you of the opposite. Like rape is one of those horrific crimes. I consider rape to be equivalent to murder or attempted murder, because it's trying to kill the spirit, it's trying to just destroy the sexual power of another person, and our sexual power is our life force. So it's just, I consider it to be a type of attempted murder, and I really think that people who are convicted of rape should get sentences equivalent to a murderer. Like I don't understand why like the average time in jail for a rapist is like 9 years. It's just, yeah, here I go getting angry, but it's so normal. It's just so normal. Like this is something that so many women are dealing with. They say that 1 in 4 women on average is raped in her lifetime. I think that number is a vast underestimate. I'm not going to put my own figure on it, but I would just say that it's much, much higher than I believe it to be. I think in part because a lot of the stories that we see coming in about rape and sexual assault are the most horrific of the horrific rape. Like every type of rape is a form of violence, psychic, spiritual, and sexual violence. But I think that the stories that come forward that we hear about like on the news or etc. are like an even more extreme of the extreme. It's like, getting drugged, tremendous pain, bruises, all the stuff. Um, and if you are someone who has been through that or is actively going through that, really the message primarily that's coming through from spirit is to know that you are always empowered. It definitely, in that moment of assault, there was a power, it's like a power mismatch, but what these like assaults are designed to do is to use this world of illusion that we live in, right? We know that everything about our physical existence isn't really real, in the sense that um, it doesn't exist in the way that we think that it does. So a lot of times, like these really horrific events, such as rape or even slavery, I'm getting are done in this world of illusion to convince the psyche and the mind that it's disempowered for much longer than the event of rape, even, cyclically through generations, through lifetimes, etc., so that it will have like a compounding effect of disempowerment long after the event itself. um, and even though we do live like in a world that's made of illusion, that doesn't mean that, you know, the damage that's done is not real. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like we know that we are not our bodies. So when things happen to our bodies, it can convince the mind that like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm powerless, things like that, based on an event that has happened to our bodies. But we are not our bodies. Like, we are spirit, we are essence, we are all powerful, we are infinite, and we are always at the highest level centered in our power at all times, like no matter what happens to us. And for me, at least, as someone who has even like a decade out, is still um, stripping off like different layers of trauma, almost like an onion, just trying to get to the healing that's underneath. I think that that is the one thing that's really come that I've learned throughout my journey, which is definitely still going on, which is that I am always have been and always will be powerful. I do have a voice. My voice is not something that can be ignored. My power is not something that can be ignored. And I am strong enough to weather any type of storm that has come at me. There's no one that can kill my spirit. There's no one that can destroy my life force, um, except me. Like, I'm the only one. And I think that those have been like the biggest lessons that have come through in my healing. And I hope that, if you are still healing from trauma, however long it's been, I hope that maybe like my learnings, and I'm still learning and growing so much, and discovering just new things that can help you somehow, like as you kind of go through your own journey. Okay, so I've pulled some cards, so we'll talk through them. So I have the 9 of discs here. So the 9 of Pentacles is about a return to independence. And I think that that's something that's coming through big for this full moon, especially as it results to like deep trauma. We need to remember together as souls that we really do have all the abundance within us. That's not something that someone can take. They can try. And that's part of that illusion of extreme trauma, such as even like, maybe getting shot or like going to jail and being incarcerated, and then having like, abuse from the prison guard or something like that. It doesn't have to just be rape. That's been what I've been working on most. So that's forefront of my mind. But like any type of major traumatic event that someone can go through that can convince them that they're not abundant, that they don't matter, that they're powerless, that, the shame and the unworthiness that can come in. This full moon is asking us to, it's not even asking, it's just like, it's happening. Like, and I'm just giving you like the warning to just buckle down with maybe some ice cream, like, whatever you need to kind of process it. To just remove that sludge so we can come deeper into the awareness that we are infinitely abundant, intelligent beings of light. We are always that in all moments. Like I have one of my favorite sayings that I wrote about on my website was that a diamond never stops being a diamond. And that is also running through my head now because a diamond never stops being a diamond. It doesn't matter what happens to it. It doesn't matter if it's covered in mud or, thrown in a dumpster, if it's locked away, if someone breaks it into a million pieces, it's still a diamond. And I feel like that energy is what's coming through in this full moon. It's like you have always been shining. I have the card of let your light shine. The reality is that you have always been shining. Everything about your energy and your essence is light itself and sound. It doesn't matter what anybody tries to do to try to take your light from you or snuff your light out. It is literally impossible because energy can never be created or destroyed. So your energy, like especially your sexual energy, which is your life force energy, is yours. It cannot be taken. It cannot be destroyed. This full moon and into July on a deep level, and again, some people may not even be consciously aware. They might just have a new sense of strength or a new sense of forgiveness and healing that comes in, which is really kind of the final, I think, phases of like remembering your empowerment after such a very traumatic event, such as a shooting or rape. But as I was saying, like, yeah, your life force energy, your sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces that you have. It is like your core center of power. It is your Kundalini. That is yours, and it always stays with you. Like the idea that it leaves you ever is a little bit, it is an illusion, but I mean, again, if you believe it, then definitely do like a calling your power back ritual, like daily or even especially during the full moon. Like I still do that to this day, even though I know that in a certain sense, like my power can never really be taken or my power is always mine. I still, on a subconscious level, I don't know if I like really believe it at every single level. So even to this day, like I will do like a calling my power back rituals on a regular basis that I find extremely helpful. So I think that would be something great to do, especially around this full moon. I also think that the idea of sending, and again, wherever you are in your healing journey, I'm 10 years out. So this is a little bit more in my wheelhouse, but if it's a brand new instance, you may not be there yet. And if not, that's okay. But whenever you are ready, sending compassion to whoever, like the people or persons who caused the trauma, I think can also be a very empowering thing, because your ability to hold compassion, to let your heart continue to be loving and kind, is another powerful, very defiant, I think a very understated form of defiance against toxic power systems that are seeking to separate it. Like if you can stay in unity and recognize that, we are all one, we all at our core do embody like the essence of the great mother within us. Like I have this card of the divine feminine here with the card of alignment. This is a powerful time for us to get back in line with the great mother, and some of the great mother's most profound, most emotional, I think, aspects are her empathy and her compassion and her vulnerability. So I think that, especially through July and this full moon that's coming up tomorrow, like it's probably going to strip us very raw. Emotionally, it may have already started and it may very well continue. It's okay. Let the feelings flow. I have, like, for me, just speaking for myself, I've been in such a deep resistance about some of really just kind of feels like the energy of hatred. And I've hated to admit to myself that I have felt hatred towards the person that raped me for over a decade because I didn't want to think of myself as a hateful person, and I'm not. But that's the energy that's coming up, like a repressed anger, a repressed hatred. And it's like, now or never. If I am going to heal and get rid of this and fully come into a being of light and empowerment, I have to acknowledge myself that there has been, and to a certain extent, in the depths of my shadow, still a part of me that really just hates what happened to me and hates the person that did it, even though there's love there as well. And to just come to terms with that and let that be a jumping off point into healing, into transmuting that hatred, which started as love. The person that assaulted me was my boyfriend. I thought we were going to get married. Like I just really thought that he was it. And hatred is a distorted form of love. So I think that there's a lot of really angry, divine feminines out there, and rightfully so. Like rightfully so, with some of the stuff that's happened to us in our lives or in past lives, or that we see happening to other women. I just looked up on the website, I think it was UK, like a UK website, because I was asked by Spirit to go deeper into the topic of rape, like for my healing, and maybe we'll see how it plays out. But for this reading as well, and I was floored to learn that in the UK, the number of reported rapes is higher than it's ever been. Like 2022 was the biggest year ever on record for sexual assault or rape. And when I read that, I just wanted to cry. Like, I'm just like, how could it be getting worse? Like, how could it be getting worse? It's already an epidemic. Like, I think epidemic might be an understatement for the amount of sexual abuse and sexual assault that goes on with our young women and men as well. I don't want to leave anyone out, or trans people. It's already horrific. How could it be like worse? I was so saddened to hear that. But as we know, as we've talked about before, there's always a counter energy that comes up whenever a really beautiful energy comes in. So what's happening is that the divine feminine is rising. She's getting so much stronger. She's getting so much more powerful. There are more women speaking out about what's happened to them. There are more women in positions of power. There are just so many strong women. There are more women going to college than men. I mean, it's really just a time of the female. And a lot of women in spiritual communities who are at the top of their game, like a lot of them, I'm going to be honest, are female or LGBTQ, they're just at every level, just starting to outpace men. And again, if you're a man watching this isn't, I'm not gloating. This is just the reality that we are changing things up a little bit. It's the divine feminine's calling to take the world, as kind of act as our leaders and take us and help lead us into this new energy that's based on divine feminine love and respect. And the counter energy that's coming up is people who just don't want to see the divine feminine rising. Like, they don't want to see people empowered in their femininity at all. And I absolutely think that the increase in rape is a backlash of that, of people who just hate the changes that are going on and actively want to stop it by trying to destroy the sexual empowerment journey of a young person before they even have a chance to get it started. Like, the average age of people that are assaulted is between 15 and 25, with 15 being the most common age, which is absurd. That would be someone who is these young people who are just coming into their sexuality, just learning to explore their sexuality. And if that were to happen uninterrupted, they would end up very empowered in their life force energy and their sexual energy, and very in charge and in demand. And I think that there's energies that know that And I think that's part of the reason why rape is so prevalent, is because there's so many energies that just do not are eager to see that process completely disrupted or destroyed. So if you have, but at the same time, it's like the paradox of that is, if you are someone who ends up being assaulted, attacked in any way, you survive that. The healing journey is long. I'm gonna be honest, at least for me, maybe it's not for all of you, but like when you begin to come out of the other side, you are more empowered than you've ever been, probably than you would have been even without that traumatic event. And that's maybe the main point that I want to drive home, like around this and why I'm talking about it, is that and I just feel like it's important for someone out there, maybe like some young person, to hear, is like, there is light absolutely at the end of the tunnel. There is so much to be, from a spiritual perspective anyway, so much to be, so much power to be gained from the healing process and the awareness that, nothing can take me down, nothing can take me out. If I survive something like that, I can survive anything. And if I can do it and still have a smile on my face, like that is the essence of ultimate power, in my opinion. And I think that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, the divine feminine essence will continue to show us that that's the case. It's just going to be a little bit rocky for a while. Is there anything else to cover here? Alignments. Yes. Okay. So, coming back into the heart, utilizing the sacred masculine, because again, this isn't like a male bashing video at all. Like, there is a sacred masculine energy that wants to come in and wholeheartedly support this new feminine energy that's rising. And we should not at all forget that this energy is here. We should not allow this beautiful masculine energy that's coming through in the hearts and the minds of some of our men of any age, of any creed, to be tossed into the same boat as those other men and women, because women create too, who are operating from a distorted, extremely toxic way of being and thinking that is eager to see other people disempowered. We just can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need to remember that despite these very distressing issues and figures and events that we go through both collectively and individually, that there is indeed more light on this planet now than ever before, and that is part of the reason, I think, why we're having so many like just strange backlash situations. Like, I also know that affirmative action was repealed on the Supreme Court. I'm certainly not here to make a political commentary. I don't think that's useful. I do think, though, that it brings up an issue. And again, like, I'm thinking back to my research that I did around sexual assault and how there's so many young women, of the ones that report, that have enough evidence to go to trial and that do go to trial. Sexual assault cases are some of the most stalled cases. Like, I know very famously, Kesha just wrapped up her defamation lawsuit with Dr. Luke. If for those of you don't, this is a little all over the place, so I'm just trying to collect my thoughts. So it's just a lot for me to try to ground in. But Kesha was another very famous woman who came out and accused her, I think it was her producer, Dr. Luke, of sexual assault. She sued him in 2014. And she lost the suit, I believe, in 2016. And he countersued her for defamation, which is kind of like the rich man's way of gaslighting and be like, that's a lie, which some people who do come out and name their abuser do experience. They get told that they're making up and all this, gaslighting stuff. And that defamation lawsuit has been going on since 2016 and just wrapped now in 2023. So she has been in court for a decade, entangled with her abuser. And like now all of a sudden, in 2023, like very abruptly, like I was kind of reading the timeline and it's like, it was almost like bam, bam, bam. Like by the end of June, immediately he decided to settle and settled. And it's just like now she's free. She doesn't have this, psycho man around her trying to sue her, whatever. She can do whatever she wants now. Like it's been a long, hard journey, but now she's back on it. And I think it's just so interesting because 2014 was also the year that I left my abuser. So it's like her court case is almost totally overlapped with my healing journey as well. So I feel like a deep, I don't know, like solidarity maybe. And I certainly have never been a Kesha fan before, but I kind of am now just because her ferocity, like just her beautiful, like she's always had like a wild woman, like archetype. But just to see her like now, like I saw one of her more recent a cappella things that she did, and I listened to her praying song that she made a few years ago, and just the beautiful divine feminine rage that came through. I mean, that like to me, like she is like there's not many people on the planet as brave and as ferocious in their femininity as she is. So I'm officially a Kesha fan. Who knew? She doesn't album out. But just the fact that happens like the day before, like I started getting like just flashbacks of my own assaults, and she popped into my mind randomly. I was like, whatever happened to Kesha? And like I go research her, and like one day earlier is when her settlement was. It was like so much synchronicity. But her ordeal is not unusual. I was going back to what I was saying about court cases. There are so many young women who take or people, not just women, who take their rapes to trial, and then it just sits there for years. It's like an average of 3 years from start to completion. And there's so many young women who have been sitting there. It was said, like, the stalling of the court case has made me feel like suicidal. Like it makes me feel like I'm stuck in this, in this perpetual abuse that I can't get out of. Like, and I've never sued anyone or been sued. So I don't know what it's like to be in a court case, but it's just really interesting to kind of see that happen, and the fact that the justice system is so slow to prosecute these victims. The conviction rate, if they are convicted, is 10 years or less. It's like an average of 9 years. It's like our justice system is failing our young women. And to also see like this week that affirmative action has been repealed on college campuses or wherever, that, I won't get too big and cheery on that because it's such a hot button topic, but taking it from the highest perspective that I possibly can right now, there's just a trend. Like there's a trend of people on an individual and collective level who seek to try to empower themselves. It could be a young woman who's going to case against her abuser for rape. It could be this affirmative action policy, which whether you agree with it or not, I really could give a damn. My essential point is that a lot of these highly political ideologies, such as affirmative action, were put into place to try to make the balance of power more equal between races, because there are a lot of people who are, of the quote unquote white race. I don't really like the whole racial terminology. We'll get into that later, but just using the terms that make sense to you guys, quote unquote white people who have tons of wealth that they've gotten on the backs of slaves, getting into top colleges and universities, using cheating methods. Let's be honest. Like there's a huge scandal the other day, like maybe like 10 years ago, where a bunch of like rich families were busted because they're paying people under the table to take their tests for their kids. And nepotism off the charts. Like I went to Princeton University. I'm wearing orange and black. Did you see that? Anyway, I went to Princeton University. Did not come from any, by the way. researching like the statistics of a place like Princeton, for example, if you looked into it, the overwhelming percentage of the people that they admit are actually legacy students. So basically, what I'm getting at is like nepotism is the biggest factor in people's ability to get into top colleges, period, point blank, the end, that's all. And because like there's so many people, I mean, Black people were not even allowed into Princeton until 1969. So there's not that many Black legacies. There just aren't. You know, it's literally hasn't even been, has it been 2 generations, I think? I don't even remember. Because 1969 would be baby boomers, right? And then you have Gen X and then millennials. So it's like, we're like, and now Gen Z is in there. So we're like 3 or 4 generations down of potential Black legacies where, you know, white people, like Princeton was established in 17, oh, I can't remember. Was it 8? I have a t-shirt that says it. I forgot. Was it 1746? I don't remember. It's super old. And it's just been white until 1969. Finally, they got some Black people. So basically what I'm getting at is that like there's been so much advantage on a racialized basis that there still is, like these top very rich families using every method at their disposal, donating millions of dollars to these schools the year before their child applies, using nepotism off the wazoo. It's like there's some people that it's like, yeah, my great-great-grandparents went there, and my grandparents went there, and my mom went there, and now I'm gonna go. Like that just is unfathomable for someone who is like, for example, in my situation. Affirmative action was put into place as a recognition of the fact that there's such a big discrepancy in power of opportunity. And affirmative action existed to try to balance that power out. Now, again, you can sit there and get upset all day long because you feel like, blah, blah, I don't care. My point is, from a higher spiritual perspective, like that was an effort at collective empowerment. Whether or not it was a good one or a bad one, you can debate that on your time, but it was an effort of empowerment. And to see that, like, as well as the Roe v. Wade thing that was just overturned last year, which is another big blow to women who are already struggling in the courts. Like these efforts at empowerment, both individually and collectively, like with the case of sexual assault victims, Roe v. Wade, affirmative action, like these are all empowerment efforts using the court systems that the court system then completely fails by either stalling the case, being slow to convict. When they do convict, the time in jail is ridiculously short, or just kind of repealing these things like affirmative action, Roe v. Wade, with no replacement in sight. It's like if you're going to repeal it, what is the alternative path to empowerment? It needs to happen. It's going to happen because the energies where we're going to necessitates equality. Like we will get there. There will be a balance of power eventually. It just begs the question, like if it's just going to get like shot down with no one offering a replacement to how to make sure that there is a balance of power in some way, it kind of just sends the message that people just don't care like about empowerment of any disenfranchised group at all. That may not be true, but that's how it looks. And I think that this year, for some reason or another, especially, I'm just kind of getting a download that many people will come to the realization that our court systems, our justice systems, pun intended, aren't here for justice. They're here to maintain the hierarchy. They're here to maintain the balance of power as it currently stands. And if they have to disenfranchise and disempower certain people on an individual or collective level to ensure that happens, then that's what they'll do, right? So it's like, as a collective, where do we go from here? I think and again, I don't think it's my place to give advice, but on this particular, because it's highly politicized or highly political, but I will just say that wherever we go from here is more than likely not through any system that exists today. It's probably not through our currently politics. It's probably not through the current justice system. I think that these systems will fall. And I think that part of the reason that a lot of the developments that we see happening in our justice systems, if we take a look at individual cases or collective cases, are happening is to drive home the point that it's really just on, I want to say like no one's, okay, it's going to sound negative. I want to say like no, like your systems aren't coming to save you. That's what I want to say. Your systems are not coming to save you. New systems need to be established, which means like the collective slowly manifesting whatever those new systems look like. And we'll see how that pans out. But I want you all to not fear, to not allow the illusion that you may see on the TV, that you may experience in your individual lives via a serious traumatic event, or collective traumatic events such as terrorism, such as the trauma that someone could feel when they realize that maybe they need an abortion and can't get it, or maybe their dream is to go to a top school and they feel like it's out of reach now because, affirmative action has been repealed, or DACA. I think DACA is still going, but there was a moment just a couple of years ago when it got repealed and reinstated or something like that, or like that an immigrant might feel if, there's some kind of a court case that makes it harder for them to exist in their country. This is really just done to help us remember that our empowerment lies with us as individuals and not with the systems that are in place or any current hierarchy that exists now. That is the main point that I want to drive home. And I want for everyone to just grab onto these beautiful divine masculine and divine feminine energies of power and compassion that are coming in to remember, despite whatever you read on the news, despite whatever you might be healing from or going through individually or collectively, that these energies are here. They are becoming the dominant energy, and to just hold on to that light and that beautiful vision, no matter how rocky things get in your personal life or collectively, because a lot of times maybe there's like a mimicry of that. Just again, remember that all truly is well. Let's pull some cards. I'm in a little all over the place, but it's hard. Like, I see the connections between all these things so effortlessly. It's explaining it is another matter. So hopefully you hung with me throughout all that. But it was important for me to say. Is there anything else? Okay, so for some reason, Spirit wants me to go back to, what do you want me to say on this? Just one second. Okay, another message that I forgot that Spirit is wanting to bring me back towards on the topic, especially specifically of trauma and sexual assault, is there is a message that's very much needed for a small collective that are in, whose healing journey hasn't quite been as progressive as maybe it should have been or needs to be, because they haven't yet realized that they've been raped. And they want me to kind of share a little bit more about my story, which I'm reluctant to do, but I'll go ahead and do because I keep being nudged about it, and I think that it really will help someone. I think that another major misconception about rape and like why rape is so extremely underreported is because we have a misconception that rape is something that always has to be painful. Again, the stories that you hear, if you like read about it, and that's a misconception I had. And that's part of the reason why it took me so many years to come fully to terms with like the number of times that I've been assaulted, because I had managed to lie to myself and convince myself that I'd only been like raped by my ex once, because there was only one time where I felt like the level of physical violence was to the space where it was like, it looked like what I've seen like on the movies or whatever. The overwhelming majority of the time when my ex assaulted me, he would go, I mean, he knew my body. He would like go out of his way to make sure that, that I would orgasm, that there was plenty of lubrication, etc. That was part of the power trip that he was running, because for him, it wasn't enough for him to just take advantage of me. Like, he really wanted to fulfill that old stereotype of like someone gets raped and like really enjoys it and it starts to become consensual. Like, that was the fantasy that he was going for. And he was very concerned about my physical pleasure, like during the assaults themselves. And when that happens, like, I just always assume that like someone who rapes doesn't care at all about like me or whether or not I orgasm or whatever. But I mean, without getting into too much detail, like, he always would make, like, almost all except once would like manipulate my body in a way that I would orgasm like during the rape, and like that was his way of being like, oh, this is fine. And because my body was doing the opposite of what I said I wanted, like I would say no, and then my body would, you know, hit a state of arousal and I would have some like an orgasm. It made it so confusing for me. It was like the biggest gaslighting situation that could have ever happened, because I'm like, there's no way that rape has to be painful. Like, it has to be like, sex feels good, rape feels bad. Like, there's no way that rape can feel physically pleasurable. Like, that's not possible. That's not what it is. And that was part of my denial. So because it was so hard for me to fathom that I was being inflicted with such extreme emotional, psychological trauma while my body was in the complete opposite state of like of pleasure, it blew my mind. I couldn't fathom it. And that was part of the extreme manipulation. It's almost like really around now that I'm able to say like, oh my God, like this was a multiple occurrence. It wasn't just a one-time thing, because now, like, and this has been my guide, it's helping me for sure, like helping me release the gaslighting, the doubt that naturally comes in when something like that happens. And it's like you don't understand what's going on. It's like, well, maybe, you know, you just start to think that, oh, maybe, you know, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I really did want it and I made a mistake, you know, like the gaslighting of yourself that goes on. Yeah, where did you want me to go from here, Spirit? I have to lean into Spirit or else I'm just going to get like mad. Okay, so they want me to just drive the point home that like, yes, rape can be physically can mimic sex in terms of it being like an arousal state and an orgasm and everything like that. It's a huge misnomer that rape is only this super painful negative event. And it's like, this message needs to reach someone or like a group of people who have been assaulted or are still with their abuser and lying to themselves, pretending that they haven't been raped because they don't have any signs of bruising or forced entry. So that was another really important thing that I didn't want to share, but I've shared it, okay? And I hope that helps someone come to their healing journey a little bit quicker than maybe I did. Whew, okay, that was a lot. Yeah, so full moon themes. Yeah, deep trauma healing. This is gonna be heavy. I knew it was gonna be heavy. But that's the biggest theme. It's like overshot. I mean, there are other themes as well, but like that is like, it's like a big fat like red neon sign, like trauma healing at the highest level is like what you need to know for the full moon. So I would say, like, you know, buckle up. If you cry spontaneously, let yourself cry. If you find yourself thinking about that that one toxic event, if you need to go into it to release, that's fine. But make sure that you're also taking some time in nature, taking a break, letting yourself laugh, giving yourself a break. Like if you want some some cookies or some cheesecake, you know, and the Golden Girls, every time they got upset, they ate cheesecake, you know. This might be the time to just go ahead and just let that ride. You're going through a lot, you know. My heart is absolutely with you. Like, I'm going through it too. Okay, let's see if we can get some final theme. I hope I can lighten it up. Let's pray. Okay, let's get some final themes for the week. And then we'll go into the dailies. Yeah, this is all about power. This full moon is all about power. And just knowing that what we feel disempowered by is like, it's an illusion that it disempowered you. Like, that's the biggest lesson that I can have. And I think that collectively we're learning that as well, which is kind of why I talked a little bit about court and court cases. And I think we'll have more examples of this to come. Because it's very common now for like political events to make people feel all sorts. Like something, the wrong person gets elected or the right person or whatever. Like the opposite from what somebody wants gets elected, and all of a sudden there are people freaking out like, my country's going to hell. I don't know what we're going to do. I need to go to Canada. You know, like all of this kind of like thing. It's just because as a society, as a collective, we are so traumatized that any event collectively that seems major, that no matter how small, can trigger massive fight or flight. I did my blessing before I came on, but I'm going to do it again because I forgot. And I always like to do the blessing, like a blessing on camera as well. So I'll pause, do a blessing, and then we'll do card pulls, and we'll go into the dailies. I try to keep these short, but I'll be honest, Spirit does not shut up. They just keep going. Like, I am notoriously short-winded. I don't talk a lot, but when I'm doing these dramatic when I'm doing these weekly readings and I ask Spirit what they want to say, it's always like, yeah, and something else, and something else. Okay, let's just do a blessing, and maybe just, it's not really a blessing, just to kind of lighten the mood, because I've been pretty heavy. I try to be as lighthearted as I can, but, you know, spirituality isn't always lighthearted. So let's just do a clearing and a reset. Okay. Ask the divine to be with us now in love and gratitude. I ask for the healing of all collective and individual trauma to begin in exact, perfect divine timing for each person. I ask us all for the ability to see the higher potential in everything, to come into clarity, to come into oneness, to come into unity, to commune here together in love and unconditional love and ascension, and receive the messages from my cardfuls with the whole heart and benevolence of the one. So let it be. Oh, and may I also make sure that I tap into the energy of collective and bring through the message that the collective most needs to hear. So let it be. Some for you, some for me. Oh shit. As you can see, I'm in a new place. I know I'm going to use the regular Rider Waite with the Oracle of the Seven Energies, kind of like I did last week. The Oracle of the Seven Energies is a little bit of like a higher vibrational oracle deck, and the tarot will kind of ground us in. So I'll just do a mix. And I feel like I need to pull more cards than usual this week. On a lighter note, I have been spending this week learning about, you know, Beyonce's Everybody Mad breakdance. This week I found a tutorial by Ashley Everett where she was teaching how to do that. So I spent a lot of my week learning the Everybody Mad dance. I thought it was important for people to know. Maybe one day I'll put it on my TikTok, like once I get it together, and everybody mad. I get it. Anyway. Weekly energies. highs and lows this week for sure. And that's okay. I'm gonna pull a whole spread. This fell out. Yeah, feels heavy. Oh. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. Wow. Okay. About some condoms as well. Interestingly enough, since we were talking about what we've been talking about, I randomly bought some condoms, and it says "I love" on the top of the box. I think that is telling. I think it's just a synchronicity. Like, there's nothing more to mention than I have condoms that are called "I love." Natural latex. And I also brought my ankh. Okay, I have so many like very explicit sexual symbols with me today. Like, let's walk through them all. I have my condoms. I have my this ankh, which to me, I've said, if you watch some of my YouTube videos, you will know that I always think that the ankh is the portal of divine creation. It looks like a vagina. So I have condoms, which are for the penis, and the ankh, which is like a divine vagina right here. And I didn't even try. I'm just like, I just need these things with me today. And if you join me on the 4th, which would be tomorrow, I'll be doing it 10. What time did I say? I don't know. I'll put up another whole post about that. But let's do it at 10 p.m. my time, which would be 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be doing like a healing from rape, trafficking, or trauma for the collective. And I have this amazing candle. Look at this. It's like a woman that just gave birth and holding like a little baby, which it's like the great mother in all of us. Like, oh, I'm so excited. If you can join me tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time, live on Instagram, please do. Like, I am so thrilled to be doing this spell. I've been wanting to do a spell for my own empowerment from sexual assault, for the collective empowerment of sexual assault. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. It gets me really excited to be able to do this, because like I feel like one of the greatest forms of empowerment or re-empowerment is witchcraft. Like, being able to use your magic in a positive, healthy way that's not cursing people, but in a positive, healthy way that brings healing and empowerment is one of the, like, to me, like one of the most, like, the best things that I've been able to do as I've processed my own personal, like, deep, profound trauma. I think that maybe for some of you it is as well. You might be practicing or might be curious. It'd be great for you to come out and do the root spell. If not, I'll make sure to have the full version on YouTube. Okay. Anyway, let's get to it. So I was randomly the Princess of Cups. This is collective. A young woman with a turtle and a fish and a bird. Okay, so land, water, air. Okay. The Princess of Cups. So this is like, these are our young, it's like young women, like our vulnerable young women. And it's also the, like, not just ones that are existing now, but us, like that vulnerable, young, and it feels like a woman. Like, I'm trying to make it for men too, but it's really just coming as a woman. So, the vulnerable young woman who exists inside all of us, who I'm seeing, like, just going back to that, who was traumatized during that event, or that vulnerable young man who was traumatized during that one toxic event. And you know the one, like, it obviously happened when you were younger than you are now, unless it happened today. And just the feeling of like youth and beauty and our handsomeness and empowerment, but just extreme vulnerability, and how that is such a beautiful thing to have that vulnerability. But unfortunately, For some of you, like maybe it's been taken advantage of, and like that wound that needs to be healed as a big theme for this week, and especially for the full moon coming up. And then we have the Queen of Cups, and it's interesting that I put the Princess of Cups and the Queen of Cups right next to each other, because this is what, you know, those of us, whether or not we've experienced any type of assault or whatever, like, or any kind of trauma, whatever, it doesn't have to be exactly sexual assault, but any type of trauma or whatever, like this is what these really challenging, really traumatic events are designed to do, is bring us into the highest expression of who we were. Like without what we've been through, we could never become who we are in our best self. Like everything does have a purpose. Like I said, it may not always be positive, but there is a purpose. And it just feels like big time what we're really seeing this week through this full moon and into the rest of July. It is about a deepening of our emotional selves, going deeper into our emotional selves, pulling out any toxicity or negativity, mastering that trauma, and emerging on the other side as the queen who is fully aware of, in tune with, and compassionate towards herself at such a deep level that healing cannot help but happen. And compassionate towards others as well who have done her wrong, that aren't in their rage phase or their curse phase or whatever, that is grown, empowered, like just wild, divine, feminine energy, like coming in so big. And then I have the King of Pentacles upright and the Queen of Pentacles reversed, which is self-care, big, needed for the collective. Like never, just please be gentle with yourself. You know, judgment is the last thing that you need. And I know that it's hard, but be as compassionate with yourself as you would be with a newborn baby. You know, you're still learning just like a baby. You make mistakes. It's okay, you know. Just deep self-care and compassion. It's like, I don't even have the words. Like I wish I had a deeper language than just like self-care, but maybe just like a deeper reverence, or just it's almost like being your own holy divine witness, you know, being your own sacred witness. Yeah. And the divine masculine, and this is also can be the divine masculine as you, like wanting to support this feminine who is in the process of deep healing, wanting to be there and is capable and ready to be there. Allow the divine masculine, both and externally, if you have a healthy, loving divine masculine in your life, could be a lover, a partner, a friend, or it could be the divine masculine within you that you've been running from and scared of because you're afraid. You're almost like afraid that the divine masculine within you is going to be a killer, like a toxic rapist or something like that. Like just being able to coming into such a deep compassion and awareness of your own emotions, of yourself, that you're able to tell the difference between a quality masculine and a good for nothing taker. You know, we are learning the difference between these energies as a collective, individually, throughout our lives. But this full moon and through the rest of this month, like this is the biggest lesson. Who is really a divine masculine that can be here, that can support, that can show up as a strong, embodied, protective, like embodiment of what it means to be a divine as a masculine, as a male, versus the people that want to cling to these toxic systems of separation that lead to more hierarchy, to more sexism, to more racism, to whatever. You know, it's like we are learning the difference between the two, and it's emboldening us with a hope, because we know that this energy exists. It can be really easy if all you see is this: takers, liars, cheaters, to manipulators, to make you feel like you have nothing, or that there's nothing out there, like there's no good men, or like there's no, you can't find any good friends. That's not true. Like This energy is here. It's here for my divine feminines, for the masculine, and for my divine masculine. There is a good woman out there, a strong, balanced woman. She's not toxic. She's not manipulative. She's out there. Like your tribe is out there. Like, yes, they are here. And to be able to come into this awareness, to purge this energy, once you get on the other side, you'll be able to notice the King of Pentacles. You'll be able to notice the Queen of Swords, and you'll be able to tell the difference between that and a Seven of Swords energy. It'll give you like almost like a new passion for living in a new and more invigorated way. It'll give you a new passion for your life on earth, knowing that you can actually share it with people around you who do actually care. It's not just a deluge of crap over and over again. Like, eventually it will be good if it's not already. And if it's already good, you'll become more open and more inspired to even more forms of love than you've ever known. So it's like a plus, 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 plus. But in order to get there, again, we have to give something up, right? And what we're being asked, it's almost like, it's again, like it's almost like, I don't want to say no permission given, but it's just like the full moon, it's going to happen. Like you're going to give something up. And what we want is the release to be, for you to be aware that this is what's happening when you have that release, and to know that it's for your highest good. Okay. And yeah, lies, seeing brainwashing, cheaters, liars, manipulators, smooth talkers, making it harder for us to move into the greener pastures that we need to, because we're stuck in the brainwashing. We're stuck in the lies. Like, we believe the lies we've been told that, oh, I love you, or you liked it, you did. That is all coming up for healing. An overzealous, immature, shoot first, ask questions later type of energy that doesn't really take into account anyone in a compassionate way. That's coming up for healing. And the divine justice for some of you, you may never get your literal justice. You may never get the jail time, or, even if you were wrongly convicted. I'm just seeing someone like, and this is one person who's like maybe wrongly convicted and spent years in jail for like a minor offense or something that never happened. Why are my lights flashing? Has this been happening the whole time? Flashing lights. Nah. Okay, yeah, this is very, it's a very specific message for one of you who like is incarcerated or just came out of incarceration and are just really feeling like justice was not done for whatever reason. Like, the message that you need to hear is that the divine, you may never get the literal justice, like in terms of like the court system or a very external outcome, but the divine justice is in the healing and the realization that you are not a criminal, that there's nothing, I want to say, delinquent. There's nothing delinquent about you. You are a divine child of God, and your time in prison has helped you become aware at the deepest levels of what it means to be connected to God, because when everything else is taken and all you have is you and God, that was exactly what was needed to return you to you. And I think on some level, that's something that we can all learn from, because like being stuck with an abuser, being stuck in a traumatic relationship, or feeling like you're stuck in a traumatic relationship, or being so brainwashed that you keep yourself there, is a form of enslavement. You may not get the literal justice. Like, you may not get the conviction. You may not get the conviction overturned. But please know that divine justice is served. No one, it's important. Some of you are, again, like an anger phase where you're still just mad as hell and like really want justice. I totally understand that. The divine justice looks different than you think. It's a vibrational justice. And yes, it does come back around. But again, the universe has the same depths of compassion to someone who perpetrates a crime as to someone who is a victim or a survivor of a crime. So it may not look how you want, but it will be there in some capacity or another. Knight of Cups. I'm being drawn to the water again. Okay, so the emotions, yeah. A lot of emotions, heavy emotions coming up. Like I've talked about my own deep-seated, like I didn't even know was there, like hatred and shame coming up. It's hard. It's a lot. Being literally near water or going near water can help you process that, because water is emotion. So sometimes just going and staring at the sea if you can, and that flow, it can just help you kind of release and purge. But it's really just more about working with the water element in some capacity or another, like working with the beauty of flow of emotions, flow of who you are, back into you. And it's a beautiful heart opening and releasing. So, okay, let's wrap up with our weeklies and then we'll go into the dailies. I have willing, release, and close encounters. So, and this butterfly is in the cage, which again, it's like an entrapment. Let me just get the message. This week is about a letting go of all the unhealthy, unkind, depraved relationships or encounters that you've had throughout your lifetime, however long you've lived, that have made you feel stuck. It like now, okay. And this butterfly, is this a butterfly? This is the same butterfly. So this butterfly was in the cage, and now in willing release, it's free. It's in the forgiveness and in the compassion and in the processing of your grief from your trauma that you will find the freedom and the justice that you're looking for. Like that's the missing link for a lot of people, and why they still feel stuck and why they still are like stuck in mind loops and reliving their trauma is because they haven't released and surrendered to spirit their hurts and their pain. Please do that. Please surrender your hurts and your pain. It's like we had talked about last week about what are you willing to give up. A lot of you are being asked to give up your pain and your trauma. That's what's not serving you anymore. Let the divine take it. Let forgiveness come, and you will be as free as this butterfly. And become aware of your endless possibilities. We said that, we had this card last week actually. Become aware of your magic, being able to better harness your magic, your sexual energy, which is the building block of all magic, in a beautiful, powerful way, and to know that you're not small, you're not little, you're not weak, you're not disempowered. Like you are it. You are everything. Nothing that happens to you or that will happen to you or that other people can do to you in your life can ever take away the fact that you are a divine diamond of God with infinite power that cannot be taken. You at the highest levels, you cannot be disempowered or disenfranchised. That is an illusion of the matrix that we're in here. And then as a result of your healing, or even like gratitude through your healing, like I saw a really powerful, it was randomly like a Family Feud episode where a guy from Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, like the remix, like the new one that they did, came on the show, and he was in a wheelchair. He had been paralyzed because of a shooting. He had been shot, and it made him paralyzed. And he said on the show that after many years, he went and shook the hand of the person that shot him and paralyzed him and thanked him, because if he hadn't been shot, he wouldn't be the person that he is today. And like I want to cry right now, because it's like that healing that we're all going through is to get us to that point, is to like help us understand that that the trials and tribulations that we go through in our life are absolutely to help us become in a greater sense of gratitude for all that we have and all that we are as divine beings. And to be able to, I mean, again, it depends on where you are in your healing, like to be able to, and if you're not there yet, or you're ready to forgive and show compassion to the person that harmed you, that's fine. It's absolutely a journey. But like ultimately, the trials and tribulations that we go through in our life, no matter how horrific, is there to help us blossom into the highest form of spirit, of divine essence, of like grace and compassion that we possibly can be, to be able to look our abuser like in the face or shake their hand and see nothing but love and compassion for how much they're hurting, or else they wouldn't have done that to us. I mean, that is what we're here to learn from these traumatic events, in my opinion. And to just be grateful for the fact that you have the opportunity to become aware of, learn that lesson, become aware of that mastery, and to develop a sense of gratitude for all of your trials and tribulations, because it has turned you into an all-powerful sovereign that cannot be messed with at all. Like, you have all the power, always, all the time. You have the key to your own world that can never be taken, and it's these events that show you that. So that's what we're learning this full moon, this week, and through July. It's like the same. It's like these messages are just kind of building on each other, so that theme will run for the most part through the whole month. But it's big. It's coming in big. Today, the 3rd, and through to for a while. So, okay, let's go into the dailies. It's a long ass video. I try to keep them short, you guys, but